we're about to travel back more than 2,000 years to unpack one of the most powerful ideas in all of history. And by the end, we're going to ask a really simple question. Is it actually a perfect description of your life right now?
Now really, think about it for a second. The way the feeds are curated, the perfect lives everyone seems to have, the endless arguments, is what you see there the whole picture? Just hold that question in your mind, because it is right at the heart of Plato's famous Allegory.
So the whole thing kicks off with a thought experiment. Plato, speaking through his mentor Socrates, asks us to imagine a group of people living in this very strange and very specific kind of prison.
So picture this. These people have never known anything else. I mean, from the moment they were born, they've been shackled. Their necks and legs are locked in place so they can't even turn their heads. Their entire world, their whole existence, is just the flat stone wall right in front of them.
Now, after describing this pretty bizarre scene, Socrates delivers this line that just, wow, it hits close to home. He says of these strange prisoners, they are like us. So, you see, this isn't just some weird abstract story. Plato is making a direct claim about you and me.
So you're probably wondering, how do they even see anything at all? Well, behind them there's a big fire. And between the fire and the prisoners, there is a raised path where people are walking, carrying these statues and figures, kind of like puppets. The fire throws the shadows of these objects onto the wall. And for the prisoners, those shadows are reality. The echoes they hear, they think it's the shadows talking, not the people carrying the objects.
This whole setup, Plato has a name for it. He calls it the visible world. It's basically everything we take in through our senses. For these prisoners, it's a two-dimensional reality of flickering shapes, and to them, it's not a lie. It's the absolute 100% truth, no questions asked.
But what happens when that reality just shatters? This is where the story takes a really dramatic turn, when one of the prisoners is suddenly set free.
So all of a sudden, someone is released. He's forced to stand up and turn around. The light from the fire is just agonizing. It burns his eyes. And when he's shown the actual statues that were casting the shadows, he's totally confused. His brain just can't process it. He actually thinks the shadows he's known forever were more real than these new, painful objects. He just wants to turn back.
And this makes a really powerful point, right? Finding the truth isn't some walk in the park. This prisoner doesn't just happily skip towards enlightenment. No, he's dragged by force up this steep, difficult path out of the cave. He's in pain and he's angry about it. The process of real learning is often a struggle. So he finally gets outside and boom, he's totally blinded by the sun. This is key. Real understanding, it doesn't just happen in a flash. It's a slow, step-by-step thing. At first, he can only make out shadows on the ground. Then, he can start to see reflections in the water. After that, he can finally look at the real objects, the trees, the animals. And only at the very end, after all that, can he look up and see the source of all that light, the sun itself.
In that moment, seeing the sun for the first time, that's the peak. That's the climax of his entire journey. It represents the highest form of understanding a person can possibly achieve.
For Plato, that sun represents something huge. He calls it the form of the good. And it's not just a big ball of fire in the sky. It's the source of everything. It's what makes all truth, all reality, and all knowledge even possible.
So this whole new world outside the cave, Plato calls that the intelligible world. It's the realm of true ideas, concepts like justice or beauty. It's the kind of stuff you can't touch or see with your eyes, but you can understand it with your mind, through pure reason.
Which, brings up a pretty tough question. The prisoners back in the cave, they thought they were doing okay. They had games, competing to see who was the best at predicting which shadow would come next. But from the outside, their lives look pretty miserable. It really makes you wonder, could we be totally mistaken about what a good and happy life really is?
But wait, the story's not over. It doesn't just end with our guy chilling in the sun. The journey isn't really complete until he goes back down.
Now that he's seen the truth, he can't stop thinking about his friends back in the cave. He feels this deep pity for them and this powerful sense of duty. See, for Plato, the point isn't just to get enlightened for yourself, it's to go back down and try to help everyone else.
So what do you think happens when he goes back? Well, his eyes are used to the bright sun now, so he can't see a thing in the dark. He's stumbling around, he's terrible at their shadow games now. The others just see him fumbling around and they're like, see, that journey outside completely ruined him. It's not worth it. And this is where the allegory gets, well, terrifying. The prisoners don't just reject his message, they get angry, they get hostile. Socrates asks, if they could actually get their hands on the person trying to drag them into the light, wouldn't they kill him? This is a pretty direct nod to what happened to Socrates himself, right? He was put to death for daring to challenge what everyone else in Athens believed.
So that's the ancient story. But Plato didn't write it just so he'd know some history. He wrote it as a warning. The real question is, how does this warning from thousands of years ago connect to our world right here, right now? Okay, so the absolute key here is understanding the difference between just seeing something and actually understanding it. It's one thing to just perceive the raw data, to see the shadows on the wall, or to mindlessly scroll through a feed. But it's a whole other ballgame to actually step back, reflect, and get the bigger picture, to understand what's creating those shadows in the first place.
So what are our modern shadows on the wall? Well, they're the algorithmic echo chambers that only feed us what we already believe. They're the perfectly curated social media profiles that show a fake version of reality. It's our own confirmation bias. It's the constant flood of misinformation and deepfakes. It's all the political bubbles that keep us locked in, just staring at our own little piece of the wall.
You know, there's actually a modern term for this exact thing: epistemic injustice. It's what happens when a system actually wrongs you by limiting your ability to know the truth. When an echo chamber cuts you off from different points of view, it's trapping you in the cave. And this isn't just about being wrong about some facts. It's what drives us apart and makes it so much harder to solve real-world problems together. And this all circles right back to what Plato is really trying to say about education. He says real learning isn't about some teacher just pouring facts into your brain, like you're an empty container. The ability to learn is already inside you. Real education is the art of turning your focus, your whole being, away from the flickering shadows and towards the real light.
So we're back where we started, but hopefully with a whole new way of looking at things. This whole allegory, it isn't just some old tale. It's a mirror. It's asking us to take a hard look at our own lives, our own feeds, our own beliefs, and ask a very simple but very profound question. What shadows are you watching on your wall?